Bringing Regio Emilia home. Chapter 1 The Journey. It is cold today. Lazy frowns of frost weave across the window pane of my study. They sparkle and dance in a graceful pattern, fragile feathers of a frigid season. Outside snowflakes, light and delicate, float in the breeze past the icicles glistening on the gutter, past the steady branches of the sweet gum tree in our neighbor's yard, past the female cardinal fluffing out her feathers against the cold. A crow called loudly as he spreads his black wings in flight against the emerging blue, hot land skied of misery. I watch memories as they flow down like the softly falling snow and mingle with present thoughts, immersing myself in memories of another year, another time and place. I look back to the year lived in Italy, where I worked in a dream of the school. I look back to lived experience again, to put it into sharp written focus so that others might see it also. Yet this is not easy, for the experience is forgotten to an American audience. Sometimes I feel like Alice after her adventure in Wonderland, or Dorothy after her journey to the land of Oz. I lived inside a different world, inside another culture where in many ways life is perceived and lived differently than it is in the country. I live inside schools where assumptions about who children are and what school is for are different from those held by most educators in the United States. So just as Lewis Carroll did with Alice and Elle, Frank Baum did with Dorothy, I will attempt to recreate a context for my experience in Regio Emilia, and the kind of education I witnessed there. By telling the story, it will be the story about the place, the character I met who helped me along the way, the children, the teacher, the rich and varied materials used in their learning, and one of the children's projects on trees. It also will be a story about how all these elements fit together in a continually evolving dance of connection and relationship. How the journey began. Large projected image of light-filled schools appear on the screen. We saw children investigating the mystery of their changing shadows in the central plaza, their wonder-filled face glorious color in large murals. Children dancing among poppies in a huge field, the poetry of their description of the color and light of the flowers, teachers' face close to children's, also full of wonder and kindness, tablecloths as lunch, green interior gardens in the schools. Many materials displayed beautifully. A project on the stone lions in the piazza unfolding through drawing and clay sculpture, music and drama. Then the slide stopped. A white screen remained. Students began to exit the small amphitheater classroom of the University of Vermont. The old wooden stairs cracked under them as they left. I sat stunned, full of wonder myself and full of overwhelming certainty that I would go there, to the schools we had just seen, to live and study. I was already caught up in logistics. How would we find an apartment in Reggio Emilia? What would my husband do, and where would my son go to school? It was May 1990. In these slides, I had seen deep connections between teachers and children. I had seen teachers support and nurture children's rich relationships with the world around them. I had seen powerful examples of the use of clay and paint, movement and measurement, dramas and language to extend and deepen children's understanding of each other and the natural world. Making this kind of learning possible is my life's work. I knew I would go there, just as I had gone to the school in England to study for a year in 1975. This was a call to continue a quest to find the kind of schools where children, teachers, and parents thrive and seem to take flight in the direction of becoming the best we can all become through challenging our minds, engaging our hearts, using our hands, and honoring each other. And the world in all is its complex beauty and mystery. It was a call to journey out of the American mind, beyond the limit of logic, the constraints of the norm, the dullness of the known, the doom of boredom, the trap of the predictable. I am in love with the Italian culture. I traveled there for the first time when I was 15 with my mother and sister. I love the land, the ancient history, the richly woven culture, the flamboyance of the Italian personality. The language. I began to study the language seriously in 1989 after my fourth trip there. I was becoming fluent. After living in England in 1975 to 76, and after watching my brother's children become fluent in French and change their worldview through living in France, I had dreamed of living abroad with my young family. All the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. We were all ready for a change. I took the lead. I attended several conferences and met Carlina Rinaldi and Vera Vecchi, both of whom would become my mentor in Italy. I wrote an official letter of request asking to be accepted as an intern for a year. I applied for a small American travel fellowship, which I received. I visited the schools for the first time in May 1991. My request was granted. My husband Ashley, my son Alden, age 11, and Christopher, age 8, and I arrived in Regio, Emilia at the end of August 1991. With Carlina Rinaldi's help, we found a third-floor apartment in an 8-story building on the edge of the old wall town. It was one of the first buildings to be built after the war, most of concrete. Sound traveled right through the wall, so we heard everyone's television, especially Signora Parker's, our neighbor, who was 92 and very deaf. The apartment was sparsely furnished, but spacious and adequate for us. It was not at all what we had in mind, but slowly we all began to get used to it. French door opened out to a small balcony overlooking the plaza below. To the right, we could see the public garden across the major busy street. We were a convenient location, a short distance from the Diana School, to which I walked or rode my bike for the first 5 months of my internship. A morning in Regio, Emilia. I sit on my balcony and watch the early morning activities begin. This morning, the plaza is cool. There is a darkening bank of gray clouds to the southwest. There is only a breeze after yesterday's strong wind. I hear the loud flapping of pigeon wings as a group of birds takes off. I hear the screech and clanking of the heavy shutter open below. Probably Teresa, the fruit and vegetable lady. The morning doves coo their guttural calls. A distant train rumbles as it approaches the station, and the high train whistle sound. The first bus thunders by. I see the swallows for miles. They are everywhere. They swoop and sail on the air. Through the big gate, I lean my old rickety thick tired bike against the outside kitchen wall of the school next to the beautiful new white bike that belongs to Ida, one of the cooks. I love to walk in the front doors of the school every morning. It is a familiar and delicious routine to step into the entryway, greeted by photographs of all the teachers, and out into the central atrium of Piazza. The space is breathtakingly beautiful, with a vaulting ceiling, an interior garden court to each side viewed through glass walls, and the atelier ahead vibrant with color and reflected glass. Beyond the atelier, one sees the branches of the cypress through glass walls. The tree left behind is a public garden greet you again the minute you enter the school. It is a jewel of the school, catching the sun and reflecting the light, sparkling with color and transparency, busy with the beginning of the morning. I greet the cook, Ida, Antonella, and Nadia in the kitchen to the left as I hang up my coat. The kitchen is warm and bright. Fresh fruit snacks are being prepared for the children, sliced and peeled apples, juicy pears, or small bunches of grapes in glass bowls. Children arrived in the kitchen from each class in pairs to pick up the fruit and to tell the cooks how many will be eating lunch at school that day. Lunch for teachers and children is in preparation. The sharp smell of garlic, the fragrance of pungent tomato sauce, and simmering vegetables filled the room. The sunlight filters through the gauzy curtains and played on the shining stainless steel sink and island stove. A yellow and white checker tablecloth cover the long rectangle tables where the teachers and the cooks will eat lunch together later in the day. The kitchen is immaculately clean and beautifully equipped with mixer and bowls, an espresso machine, white wooden countertop, white china. It is like the most welcoming of homes. In the central atrium of Piazza, as it is called, I greet children who are already dressing up in fanciful clothes inside a curved structure with cooks hung inside at the children's level. Benedetta, a 3 years old, wears a skirt as a headdress. Ilaria is fully dressed in a long skirt and flowered hat has pulled down to shade one eye. They may stay in these clothes all day. On the other side of the room, Michelle and Sarah lied on their backs, watching themselves multiply into infinity inside a wooden triangle mirrored on all 3 interior sides. From here, through the layers of glass, I can see the band heads of Vera Vecchi, the atelierista, and Marina Mori, one of the 2 teachers of the 5 years next, with a group of 5-year-old boys who have been drawing trees, changing through the seasons. The atelier has a high ceiling with glass to the peak on 2 sides, allowing one to look out on the busy piazza room on one side and to the trees on the other. The cypress and a Norwegian spruce tree tower above the school. Their branches brush the roof. On foggy days, the school is shrouded in gray mist and seems to be protected by these guardian trees. The room is full of natural objects that delight the eyes. There are pink and white seashells, smooth stones, and pieces of gnarled wood displayed in pleasing patterns on the shelf near the door. A large, robust philodendron variegated green and white leaves cascading down from the rafters where it is perched. The kiln is on today, firing clay lizards and snails and vessels draped with clay leaves, which have been appearing around a round flat basket on a large square table in the middle of the room. In the back of the atelier, there are shelves and open racks of children's painting, College of Natural Materials photographs, and typewritten documents. Near the back window, where is a large space for working on murals on the floor. One such mural hangs on the back wall. It is a summertime painting tempera on paper, full of lavenders, peaches, and deep reds. Silvers and white spirals of waves roll toward a triple-stacked raspberry and lime ice cream cone. A house painted in pastel and a tropical bird, a hot red sun with undulating yellow rays fill the whole space of the atelier with warmth. This is a dream painting, a dream of summer. It reminds me of Chagall. I put my briefcase on a small wicker couch in the back corner of the atelier as I do every morning, take out my notebook and walk over to begin to listen to Vea and Marina. I have been following the work of the 4 or 5 years old boys they are discussing, and I am curious to hear the morning's idea. Both of them are animated, moving their hands, pointing out features of the drawings. Vea asked Marina about particulars of the boys' most recent conversation to try to understand how their ideas are evolving. These two women are wonderful to watch. Their way of communicating is like a dance. They have worked as partners for 15 years and they know each other well, yet the material is fresh, always fresh. They are on their toes. Their minds are alive. Their experience with the way of working runs deep. They are working with ideas, children's ideas represented in graphics, soft pencils, color pencils, and color markers. They have invited and challenged the boys to represent several of their theories about trees through drawing. They have asked them to work together to pool their ideas, their individual style of working, a particular strength. This is, of course, the way Vea and Marina are working now, in concert, in harmony, in depth, in collaboration. Vea is in her 50s. She came to work originally with Loris Malaguzzi when she was very young. Having graduated from her Italian equivalent of art school, she has shoulder-length, soft red hair, which curl around her face like a lion's mane. She is dressed in short gray flannel shorts, tights, and a soft gray sweater that comes to her waist, and heavy, thick-soled black tie shoes that she wears with everything. She is practical but elegant. She moves very graceful, swaying gait. She speaks with her slender fingers. Her green eyes glitter with fiery intensity and soft humor at the same time. She is an orchestrator and a directress. She has an aura that is commanding, a sense of delight, and a laugh that cascades. She is alive, fully in the moment, on the edge of learning and new ideas. When she gives slides presentations, she uses slides from yesterday's work with ideas for tomorrow. She weaves ideas of the life's work skillfully with passion and poetry. She can be demanding, difficult, single-minded, tough with everyone. She is a mentor. I'm privileged to work in her space. Marina Mori is my soulmate, my first Italian friend. I felt a connection with her right away. Her son, Adria, is my son Christopher's age. She is warm, all in aubers today, with hair falling down her back. Bright hazel-eyed, nut-brown corduroy shorts. Earth-tone pattern sweater. I am able to work in her room with a 5-year-old and a tree project. For me, it seems that the center of the world is the school, this classroom, this project. Sometimes it almost takes my breath away. How could I be so lucky to live in this country that I love? with my family, a short walk from the dream school where I can work every day with Vea as a mentor and Marina, a dear friend, alongside the oldest children in the school who are discovering and getting to know the trees. Now I follow Marina and Vea's conversations, their exchange of ideas, the excitement, their wondering together. As I have followed many similar early morning discussions with Vea and Marina and other teachers, this way of touching base, discussing what has happened with children, trying to understand, agreeing what might be discussed with the children's next, what materials to suggest, how to follow the process of their learning is part of the daily routine at the Diana School. It happens with Vea and at least one of the pairs of teachers from all three classes in the morning before the day begin and again in the late morning as the children are finishing their morning work. At the end of the morning, atelier often is bustling with teachers showing each other what amazing things happened that morning, what idea children have had, and how they have represented the ideas in words, gesture, drawing, clay, paint, light, shadow, wire. The teachers in the preschool of Regio Emilia have learned to work in the way under the guidance of educational philosopher and principal founder of the movement behind the school, Loris Melaguzzi, among others. Vea Vici and Carlina Rinaldi worked alongside Melaguzzi for over 20 years to help him build the principle behind the approach and the strong practice that is based on them. The Atelieristi received training in the pre-university level art school, and the classroom teachers are trained in the vocational school of education. This is also at the pre-university level. Neither received training in the Regio's approach before they arrived at the schools. They are trained through working closely with more experienced teachers and through seminars conducted throughout the years by the pedagogisti teachers and atelieristi. This morning, after Marina and Vea finished their exchange, Marina and I walked together into her classroom. These are 3 classrooms in all, each with 25 children and 2 teachers. The children from this class, I grandi, the big ones, as they are called, are engaged in greeting each other, hanging up their jacket, playing games, talking in groups in the piazza room, adding to an ongoing block construction in the corner, or perhaps responding to the message found in the mailbox. Paola, Marina's co-teacher, is greeting parents and children. There is a busy purposefully throughout the school. The first detail that always catches my eye when I enter this room is an eye-changing display of clay figures and creatures made by children. On the shelf that defines the entryway to the room, today several families of clay ants crawling on small wooden logs, and a pair of red clay spiders are reflected in a mirror that rests on the top of the shelf. A vest of autumn asters from the teacher's or child's country weekend walk reflects delicate lavender bloom in a small standing mirror at the end of the shelf near the door. The main room is spacious and airy because of high ceiling and low window along one entire wall. A housekeeping area lined with mirror is located behind the shelf in one corner. A block area including many different types of provocative materials such as tubes, cones, hoops, swags of fabrics, shells, and stones, and wooden animals and people filled an area on the opposite side of the room between an ample 3-stair set of riser and the window wall. Individual boxes for messages hang above the risers next to the writing area with a computer and printer. There are 3 rectangular yellow tables with small chairs in the center of the room, and 1 larger white adult-sized table and chairs, which also are used by children, at the end of the room next to the windows. On the walls, there are enticing photographs of the group of children standing in the shadow. of the huge sycamore tree outside the school, and close-up shots of their hands moving over the bark and of their captivated face in the midst of buds beginning to open in the spring. Alongside the large photographs, there are intricate, detailed line drawing of leaves in multiple shapes of green fine line marker, tempera painting of layers, bark, and the concentric circles of the cross section of the tree trunk in rich brown, green, and blacks. Pencil drawings of buds and blossoms and children's ideas about these phenomena typewritten underneath, such as the buds are delicate and light green because they are just born and they are still in the cradle. At around 9 o'clock, after the parents have gone, Marina and Paula call the group together for a meeting. The children gather on the wooden risers as the pears, which were prepared earlier in the kitchen, are served. Marina begins, "Well, how was your weekend? Who picked those beautiful flowers? Where were you? Carla, you were away for 3 days. Tell us about your trip to the mountains. What did you find? What did you bring back?" Children and teachers chat, catch up, and share the pleasant of each other's company. There isn't any rush. There isn't feeling that there is a need for control on the teacher's part. It is just a pleasure. "Well, what do we have going today?" Paula take the lead. "Carla, you, Agnes, and Elise were working on the class newspaper you had organized. Would you like to continue? Would you like to work on the computer today? Some children have been invited to help the 3 years old with working with wire. What would like to do that? Are these two of you who would like to play checkers? Two can continue to use the color inks at the light tables to paint your plants you brought back after the summer. Bobo, Marco, L.A., and Omar, you are still working on your drawing of your theories about trees with Marina in a mini atelier, aren't you? Are there any other ideas you would like to suggest?" As the morning's work began, I followed Marina and a group of boys into the mini atelier, a small room attached to the main classroom. The 4 or 5 years old boys and Marina began to spread out their tree drawings on the table. The room has 2 glass walls with doors like the large atelier. One side faces the classroom and the other opens out to the tree and shrubs in the back of the schools and the public gardens. The square tables in the middle of the room is just big enough for 8 child-sized chairs. There are deep, open shelves, no one wall, that hold many varieties and sizes of paper. The top of the shelf displays clay animals and heads sculpted by children, open jars of bead seeds and buttons, and transparent boxes of small shining paper, tissue paper, twines, and ribbons. On the opposite wall with a gray metal shelf stores pencils of all kinds, pens and markers and watercolors and inks, brushes and clay tools, varieties of wire and wire cutters. Francisca and Claudia, who have chosen to paint at the light table, collect the ink and brushes they need in the mini atelier and continue past us to another small adjacent room that houses a collection of musical instrument cassette tape of music from all over the world and a tape recorder. This small room is also the home of the light table, a rectangular table with a semi-transparent plastic top and a fluorescent light mounted underneath that can be switched on and off. This table glows with warmth and radiant light through inks and watercolor, tissue paper, and colored acetates, usually used by architects and designers. This versatile piece of equipment has been brought into the schools to offer children and teachers another possibilities for looking at the world from another perspective, one filled with light. The 2 girls choose a cassette of Peruvian flute music and began to organize themselves to paint. 2 healthy green plants with pink spotted leaves spilled over their pots, placed on the back of the light table. Francisca gently examined the leaves of her plant. Claudia began to paint stems with vibrant greens and pinks. All of these 5 and 6 years old are fully engaged in their work from shortly after 9 until sometimes after 11. At this time, some children finish the morning's work and wander out the doors of their classroom to play outside under their trees. In a wooden tree house climber on the merry-go-round, the young waiters and waitresses whose turn it is to set the table return 15 minutes before lunch at room. The pairs of children begins with tablecloth, then the silverwares and glasses. Finally arrange each child's cloth napkin brought from home at his or her place. At noon, the tempting smells of the primal piatto, the first course, bring the children in to wash their hands and sit in anticipation of their midday meal. Today it is pasta served in heavy wide-rimmed low bowls, fat chunks of Parmesan cheese and pieces of herbazones. A local thin-crusted spinach torte lunch or pranzo is such a pleasure for them. They have learned from their families to enjoy the time together, to savor the food, to take their time. One teacher from each pair helps serve and supervise the meal, while the other sets up the cots in the classroom for nap time. After lunch, the curtains are pulled and the room is darkened while the children settle down for their rest time. Today, Paula reads them the story of Hansel and Gretel from a large collection of fairy tales. Soon, most of these children have fallen asleep. Now it is time for the teacher's lunch. This time of the day is a treat for me for many reasons. The contrast to the American habit of gulping down a sandwich or cafeteria school lunch is obvious. This civilized, gracious manner in which the food is prepared, served, and enjoyed is an education for me. The range, depth, and engagement in our daily conversations are a delight. Pressing conversations of an organizational nature about work do not come up. If the conversation turns to work in the school, it takes on a philosophical pedagogical twist, as if viewed from a wide-range angle lens. Often teachers' family politics, friends, or shared memories are topics. There is always immense enjoyment in each other's company as a staff, including the cooks. In other words, business is not the subject. An Italian friend once explained to me, we do not have working lunches with agendas in Italy. They give us indigestions and do not respect the work or the meal or the time together. Today, after Pranzo, Marina, and Vea talk about the trees the boys have drawn. We enter the room of the 5 and 6 years old quietly, as the children are still sleeping, and pass through to the mini atelier where Paula has been transcripting the conversation that took place that morning. In low voices, Marina describes what happened with the 4 boys, and Vea gives her opinion. They have accepted the challenge to represent the tree through the season according to their theories. Now they realize that all their drawings are of different trees. Can you decide together to choose one of their trees to use for the base for each season? I think they could come to that conclusion. The conversation continues as they search to understand the children's ideas and how to proceed. The children slowly wakes up and are greeted by the snack prepared by the cooks and auxiliary helpers. It is 4 o'clock and many parents or grandparents arrive to take children home. Others stay until 5 or 6 o'clock for an after-school program. I prepare to go home as well. It has been a full day, and I am ready for a bike ride through the countryside with my boys and Ashley. I collect my things and say goodbye for the day. I wheel my bicycle through the big double gates and out into the park. I win my home past park benches filled with amorous teenage couples, past old men talking in clusters, past the mother and small children playing on the swings, past stone statues, and under the canopy of sweet gum leaf gradually turning yellow under the October sun. Again, I think about how lucky I am to have been given the privilege to live and study in Regio, Emilia, Italy. Later that evening, after our bike ride past vineyards and barnyards and fields of poplars, we are treated to a delicious pasta meal made in our kitchen by our new friends Emilia Gambetti. her husband Sergio Giovanni Piazza, and our neighbors and adopted aunt, Carlina Rinaldi. Emilia is a teacher, and Giovanni are Atelierista at La Villetta School, where I will serve as an intern later that spring. Carlina is the director of all the pedagogy for all the preschools and infant toddler centers. These wonderful friends have taken us under their wing. They want to make sure that we feel at home and that we learn the proper way to cook pasta and make simple sauces. Emilia takes over our kitchen, laughing as she chops the garlic for the sugo al pomodoro. Later, as we devour Amelia's pasta, they all enjoy practicing their English and marvel at the novelty of the whole American family that has made its way to this small Italian city, all for the purpose of studying their way of educating young children.